Storytime about how I married my father. My mom and dad got pregnant with me when they were only 16. They were both young and irresponsible. My mom wanted to keep me, but my dad didn't. My dad basically broke up with my mom and told her that if she wanted to have me, she would have to do it on her own. So my mom did. Luckily, my grandma helped her out a lot and she was able to stay in school. As a baby, my dad would visit me every now and then, but he wasn't really involved in my life as far as my mom says. Here's a little backstory on my dad. My dad grew up in a really strict family and he was expected to graduate and become a doctor. So that's pretty much exactly what he did. During the time that he was in college, he really didn't come see my mom or I, but of course my mom and him kept in contact. When my dad, or should I say husband, graduated from medical school, he finally got married. And of course this was hard for my mom because she thought eventually they would get back together. By the time my dad remarried, I was about 12 years old. I didn't have a relationship with him at the time and it didn't bother me. I was so busy with friends in school I never really thought about him. Not until I turned 14. This is when things started changing and I told my mom that I really wanted to talk to my dad. So he and I started talking on the phone and eventually he came to visit me. But things started changing when I turned 19. He actually ended up getting a divorce and he and I would spend more and more time together alone. When I turned 19 is when my dad and I started spending more time together alone. Or should I say my husband? Keep in mind, I really didn't have a relationship during my teen years. We only spoke on the phone a few times and he would visit every now and then, but not a lot. When I turned 19, I was living in college and I was closer to my dad. So I decided to reach out to him and ask him if he wanted to have dinners every now and then, and he said yes. The first time we went out to dinner, we actually had a lot of fun, and it really didn't feel like I was hanging out with my dad. It was more like I was hanging out with a friend. We just didn't have that father-daughter dynamic. We would meet up almost every single weekend, and our relationship was actually very friendly. We would make each other laugh and talk about everything. And this is when we realized that we had a lot in common. Eventually, he asked me if I was dating anyone, and I told him I wasn't. When I got home, I started realizing that I wasn't thinking about my dad like a dad. I was thinking about him like a man. So the next time I saw him, I decided to tell him that. And that's when he told me that he didn't see me like a daughter either. It took a lot of courage for me to tell him this. So that's when things started to really change between us. Every time we would hang out after that, it was more like a date. We started getting to know each other and he would hold my hand every now and then. And a few weeks later, we had our first kiss. After our first kiss, everything changed. We didn't think of each other as father-daughter. And of course, our relationship began to get more serious. And one thing we kept discussing was, should we tell our family or should we just keep it secret? So we kept it secret for almost a full year. I told my mom that I was dating someone, but I wouldn't tell her who it was. Also, a little side note, my mom and dad didn't have any contact between them at this time. My mom was actually married to someone else and they were very happy. But for me, it was getting to the point where I needed to tell somebody. Because yes, part of me felt that this was really wrong, but the other part of me felt that it was just right. I'd never met anybody like him before. So I decided to tell my grandma, and she nearly had a heart attack. She called my mom right away and told her the truth. That's when my mom came over and we talked for a few hours. I explained to them everything and they still didn't agree with me. My mom called my dad and they got into an epic fight. I was totally expecting this, but it really hurt. My mom and grandma were totally against the relationship. That's when they told me that they would never speak to me again if I kept the relationship going. A few months later, we decided to get married privately, and I didn't tell my mom. She actually found out through my best friend who was totally against our relationship as well, and she pretty much tells my mom everything I tell her. It's been 2 years since we got married, and part of me still feels guilty and like I did something really wrong. But now it's getting even worse because I actually met someone who's my age and is not related to me, but I don't have the heart to break up with my husband/dad. I told my mom about this new guy and she really wants me to get a divorce. I feel like all along I was just looking for the love of a man because I didn't get that from my dad. Now that I'm seeing someone else, I'm realizing how wrong what I did was. But I don't want to break my dad/husband's heart. How can I fix this? What should I do?
Am I wrong for flipping out on my husband for canceling my job interview? So this might sound petty, but let me explain. In 2019, I could no longer work because of my physical disabilities. No company wanted to hire me for the past couple of years, and my husband said that it's just better that I stay home and not worry about working. I agreed, and he's become the breadwinner. Then it was like a switch that flipped because chores were 50-50, but after I lost my job, they became 100% on me. Keep in mind my physical disabilities I developed. His excuse for not doing anything to help out is that I stay home 24/7. I told him that's not fair, especially since I suffered from physical discomfort. I told him I would find a job, and he laughed and said, "Good luck." I remember this vividly because of the strange laugh that I never heard him laugh before. He made a deal with me and promised that everything will be 50-50 once I started working again. I started looking for a job again for months, but had no luck until my friend's husband found me a potential job at a company that would have me work from home due to my physical constraints. I was so excited and felt like I was capable again despite the struggle. 2 days ago, I found out that my job interview got canceled. I found out when my friend reached out to ask why I did that, but I had no idea. I checked my email and found nothing because I didn't send anything to the company. My husband came home and admitted canceling the interview. I asked why, and he said that this job had lots of requirements and I didn't seem fit to be accepted there, so to spare me the heartache of being rejected, he just canceled the interview. I flipped out on him and told him he destroyed my one and only chance of landing a job. But he said he was just feeling concerned about my well-being. I told him he probably didn't want me to work because he didn't want to split the house chores, and he seemed offended by that. He threw a fit about how unreasonable and selfish I was to even consider a job without speaking to him first. What are you, her dad? He called me horrible for accusing him of bad intention, then went out to meet his friends, probably to vent because one of them told me that my husband is looking out for me, but I was being cruel to him by yelling. This, my friend, is the definition of gaslighting. He wants you to think that he has best intention for you, but not the case. He's a controlling, manipulative asshole. Run the other way. He has been cold shouldering me since then, deleted my social media accounts, claiming that they're bad for my mental health because of the negative effects some of those platforms have.
I, male 21, was walking home on the north side of Chicago at around 10 p.m. We had smoked a little bit of weed, but not enough that I was in a state that I could not think clearly. A man who looked to be in his late 40s, early 50s crossed my path, made eye contact with me, and turned in the same direction I was walking. That's odd.
Yeah.
He was holding a Taco Bell bag and said, "Finally gonna eat that dinner after a long day." I mentioned some new art installations that had been put, into which he asked, "So you like art?" Being a recent art history major dropout brag and amateur photographer bigger brag, I responded, yes. He then said he was a professional art collector and that he had a shop a block away where he bought and sold art.
No, don't. Come on.
He then asked if I'd like to come check out the shop and his collection while he ate his dinner. He really did have a lot of framed pieces of art, but a lot of the shop looked like it was being packed up or under construction.
So is there like a lot of plastic sheets hanging and maybe some knives?
Was this email sent to us by a ghost?
Most of the collection I am moving into this space is in my apartment upstairs if you would like to check it out.
Oh my god, this was gonna get murdered!
How handsome is this person?
I say yes, and we head upstairs. The furnishing of the apartment matched the collection, included a large wooden desk and a canopy bed. He sat at the desk and pulled out a small bottle of Fireball and a shot glass.
Ew. Ew.
Fireball's your go-to to seduce someone you just met?
He offered me some, but I declined. He started by telling me about how he sold art to young rich people downtown and that he used to employ a young man like me to socialize with the younger crowd and help sell art for him. He explained that he rented out a fancy apartment and only had 2 rules for this employee. He was not allowed to have another man as a roommate, and he was allowed to come to the apartment whenever he liked. He then went on to explain that his last employee was fired for breaking the first rule. He said, "I went to the apartment one day to drop off a pair of Gucci shoes that did not fit me, so I was going to give them to my boy for free. My boy's boyfriend came down to receive the package. As soon as I left it, I set in motion the process to evict him. Never spoke to him again after that."
I can't tell if this man is homophobic or if he is himself gay.
"Twice a week, I'd come to your place, and you have to let me perform." His exact words were set on his face. He then told me to think about it. He then comes up to me and says, "Take my card and call me when you're ready." He puts his card into my front jeans pocket without handing it to me, and then says, "May I kiss you?" and leans in.
See, this is the problem with Fireball.
I immediately put my hand up to stop his face from getting closer, and he says, "Now I know you want me since you didn't just punch me. Do you want me to beg?" He then got on his knees and tried to hold my hand. I didn't let him touch me, backed up to the door, and said, "I really gotta go." As I walked, I took his card and tore it up into several pieces and dropped them on the ground as I went, and that was the end of it.
Scorned, angry parents. We gotta talk. Story time. I was just at the dollar store in town. I overheard this mother talking with her daughter on the next aisle over, and this little girl looked like she might have been about 6 or 7. Mom says, "What are you gonna buy with that $15 that Papa gave you?" The little girl says, "I'm thinking about getting my daddy some candy." And they come around the aisle to where I am. Of course, I'm on the candy aisle. This little girl says, "I wonder what kind of candy Daddy and Melissa like." And this mother looks at her daughter and says, "I don't give a what kind of candy your daddy likes. And I sure don't care what kind of candy his girlfriend likes." I'm just standing here like, why are you going to talk to that baby like that for? Then this older gentleman comes around the aisle, and I'm guessing that's her papa. And then he asks her, what does she pick out with her money? And her mama says, "Oh, she's over here picking out candy for her POS daddy and his girlfriend." And the little girl says, "Well, Daddy's birthday's coming up, and I don't want to make Melissa feel bad by not bringing her anything. Well, since you only care about him, maybe I shouldn't let you go over there this weekend." And the little girl starts tearing up. "I haven't seen my daddy in so long, I miss my daddy." And her mom says, "I don't know why, because he don't miss you. He don't never try to see you." And the little girl says, "Well, the last 2 times you said no, Mama." And the mom says, "Don't tell me what I said. I know what I said." And the little girl starts crying harder. Grandpa says, "Stop crying. You're going to get to see him this weekend. I already talked to him." And the mom says, "She ain't going over there unless I say so. And if Melissa's going to be there, she's not going." Grandpa says, "Well, if you hadn't cheated on him so much, he wouldn't have left." And the mom says, "He left us, not just me." So they start going back and forth. Then Mom finally walks off. And I spoke to the grandpa. And he said she's got a good daddy. But her mama is being selfish and angry because he's moved on and she hasn't. And now she's taking it out on her. He said, I think it's getting to the point where I'm fixing to have to take custody of my own granddaughter from my daughter. He said, you hear that? She talks to her like a dog. He says she's already got 2 warrants because the dad has joint custody and she's not been letting him see his daughter. And while me and him were talking, the little girl walked up and tried to hand him the money back. And he said, no, baby, keep your money. I gave it to you. And she said, I don't want Mama to be mad at you here. And he told her to put it in her pocket and keep it. And when that child walked off, I told him that he needed to do the right thing. And whether it was filing for custody or calling in those warrants, just make sure that baby gets to see her daddy. And then he told me that the little girl basically lives with him and his wife, the grandparents, because the mother doesn't spend time with her anyways. But she doesn't want her to see her father and stepmother. It's just so selfish, man. There's an entire family that love this child, and this child's being denied over jealousy and anger. I've never understood why a parent gets mad when their child has a good step-parent and then refuses to let their child see them. Your kids will resent you.
All right. Am I the asshole for not wanting my husband to go see Batman when our baby is due?
Okay, no, this, you said you're going to shit on men in this one?
We're going to shit on this
I don't
man.
know. That sounds like a reasonable thing.
My 25 female, husband 28 male, and I are expecting a baby
When was this posted? Was this?
3 days ago.
Okay, this is the Pattinson Batman. Okay. That changes a lot. That's all I'm saying. That changes a lot.
It's the Batman, not Batman.
As you may know, there's a new Batman movie releasing on early March. My husband is a big fan of that kind of stuff and wants to see it opening day. The issue is that our estimated due date is exactly on that day.
There's 24 hours in a fucking day. Well, I'm going.
This is exactly why I picked this story, because I wanted to see how he was going to react. I know that only a fraction of babies are actually born on the exact due date, but I have always been very regular on my periods, and I have a feeling that I may be one of those cases.
I have a feeling that I'm going to deliver.
That has nothing to do with your delivery date.
I'm enjoying that. I'm glad that this was the next sentence. I was going to say it, but I wanted you to continue. I'm enjoying that they're making an argument that has not even... they're on a premise. They're like, hey, if this happens, he's like, I mean, I kind of want to watch the game. Well, we're done.
I don't think she's saying that they're going to be done.
They're going to be.
All I'm saying is Colts quarterback Carson Wentz, baby born the day of a game. He still played in that game. That's commitment.
You're not. The baby's not being born
Okay,
all
this
day.
man's not going to make $1 million to go see this movie.
What if there's like a ticket giveaway?
Fuck off.
He's got a really big review channel on YouTube.
He says it's important to see the movie the first day because of spoilers. And even if I end up having the baby that day while he's watching the movie, at worst, he would arrive a few hours late and it's not such a big deal.
Okay, hang on. No, the concession is if I get the call, I'm leaving the movie.
Yeah.
It's not, I'll finish Act 2.
Then he would be an asshole for answering a phone call in the middle of a movie.
What's worse?
It depends.
The Batman? You silence your fucking phone. What are you, the Joker?
He says I'm being irrational and emotional because of being pregnant. I am upset because I feel deprioritized by him. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for ignoring my grandparents after my grandpa called me racist? I'm a 20-year-old male, and my younger sister is 18. We live in Louisville, the city Breonna Taylor lived in. Because of this being where Breonna Taylor lived, last year the BLM movement was very prevalent, and our city even went on lockdown a couple of times due to protests. My sister, my dad, my stepmom, my boyfriend, and I are all very vocal and open with the fact that we wholeheartedly support the BLM movement.
Okay. I was a little nervous.
My grandparents and my uncles, however, really don't. Back in May, my sister graduated from high school. At the ceremony, they played the national anthem. Now, I don't stand for the pledge or the anthem. A couple of hours later, we were having a celebratory lunch at a restaurant, and my sister and I were just joking around. She said something about how I didn't stand for the anthem. My grandpa interjected and asked me why I didn't stand, that I should have because soldiers fought and died for my right to stand. I told him I didn't stand because I didn't want to. And by that logic, they also fought and died for my right not to stand.
Correct.
He was very unhappy with this answer. He told me I was disrespectful to our troops, and then he brought up Black Lives Matter sticker I have in my car. He said that I was being, quote, racist against white people. My whole family is white, by the way. I was furious and told him that if anyone was racist, it was him.
Correct.
He had been given an ultimatum of either being fired or to retire from his career after calling many coworkers different racial slurs and derogatory names.
I don't think I can wear the grandpa crew anymore, Josh.
He didn't think that I knew this and told me that was none of my business when I brought it up. A lot of my family is telling me I should just forgive him because he's from a different time.
Ugh.
That I should forgive and forget because he's not getting any younger. So am I the asshole for wanting an apology after he called me a racist?
No, this dude sucks.